Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Today, our guest is the lovely Laura, and I hope I get her last name correct, Gisborne. My audience knows I butcher last names quite a bit, so if I said that wrong, I hope you correct me. Welcome, Laura, to our show.
Thank you, Karen. You did great. You said my name just perfectly right.
Oh, thank you. So I want to just do a brief intro to Laura or about Laura, and then I may plug in as we talk some of the other awesome things that she has accomplished during her career, because she's pretty fantastic. So Laura is the founder of Limitless Women and Legacy Leaders Global. Love that title. I want to know what that means. But before you talk about your business and what you do to support women, I would love to hear, love might be the wrong choice of words. I think it helps our audience to share whatever you're willing to share about your own trauma, because as I mentioned to you earlier, the audience that we serve is women recovering from childhood abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, toxic work environments, and a host of other traumas. Yeah. So welcome for being here, and please share what you're comfortable with sharing today.
Thank you. Thanks, Karen. I really appreciate the opportunity. I was always saying to you before we got started, this is, I focus my work today on philanthropy and growing businesses. And so it's a little unusual. This is kind of a little out of my normal place where I'm speaking. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity to share, and grateful for you doing the work that you're doing to use your voice to lift up other women. It just, it touches my heart that you're choosing to use your vehicle to heal and to help others. So thank you for that. I think my story really starts with my mother's story, right? She was a teenager when she found herself pregnant with me. And this is really a rather current and relevant conversation given what's been happening in the United States right now around abortion. It was 1965, and she tried to have an abortion and it didn't take. Obviously, here I am today. I always feel like God had a bigger plan. But she was a kid, and she was in hard times. And she always struggled. And her journey was one of going from one relationship to another relationship to another relationship, experiencing a tremendous amount of drug abuse and violence on her own. And so what I grew up knowing is that was the norm for me, right? That was her normal. Her normal became my normal. And I think that's the case for a lot of us. So I was really beaten on a regular basis and told that I wish you weren't here, and I wish you'd never been born because you ruined my life. I mean, these kind of things kind of set the tone for how I felt about myself. And so as a young adult, I moved out as a teenager into the world and worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs, trying to put myself through school at night and on weekends. And I found myself in a relationship with a man who, after about a year, started beating me. And it happened with a slap. And then other women who have been in domestic violence relationships will understand it's like, it's never going to happen again. And then a few weeks later, something else happens and it happens again. And it just got progressively worse and worse. And I was working for a law firm. I was working as a receptionist at a law firm during the day, Monday through Friday, waitressing on the weekends. And there was a woman who I worked with who pulled me aside and said, we need to talk. And I said, okay. And I was terrified because I love my job and I didn't want to be in trouble. I was like a lot of us are just trying to work hard and do the right thing and be a good girl. And she pulled me outside and she said, it's not okay that you keep coming to work with bruises on your face. And I was like, oh, this is no big deal. John and I had a fight. And she proceeded to explain to me about her own journey with violence and her own journey that put her in the hospital multiple times before she was able to have the courage to leave her husband. And she, just said to me, she said, we're watching you wither away. And what I can tell you, Karen, is at that time, I weighed 98 pounds. I never ate. And I didn't realize that I didn't eat because I was just so addicted to the drama and the struggle. And it was literally, the best I knew to just keep moving and keep surviving. That's all I knew. So she said, let me help you get help. And of course, I never had any money. It didn't matter if I worked 15 jobs. I could never pay my bills, right? I was always struggling. So she helped me find my first counselor. And he supported me in a way that would allow me to pay $25 to be in a group program on a sliding scale. And, that journey carried me for the next couple of years, kind of opened up the possibilities. And about that same time, I was living in a house with like 4 other people. And one of my roommates handed me Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. And I don't know if you've read that. I think I've like 1,000 copies. God bless her, right? And it just, there was like this, I feel like God had a bigger plan. There was like this convergence of things that all kind of came together that helped open up my eyes to the possibility that it didn't have to be that way. Yeah. So that's my story. Part of the story, right? But that's just, I don't know how much you want me to go on, but that's really what I can tell you how it started.
Yeah. So to summarize then, some of this I got before the call, is that you've pretty much have endured every form of abuse: sexual, physical, emotional, domestic violence, any sexual assault in your adulthood?
Not in my adulthood. I was sexually molested as a child from the time I was 2. So kind of like my earliest memory, and I'm not even sure exactly, but I know that the person who was molesting me through my childhood was in my life and molested me consistently until I was 9. I didn't have a safe place. I didn't have anybody to tell. This all didn't come out until my young adult years in therapy. It was like, oh, I said, well, that doesn't matter. They were like, oh yeah, it might matter. I was like, oh, well, that happened when I was a kid. That doesn't really matter, right? There's just like all these layers of denial and shame and hiding, that I experienced.
Well, and one of the things I've learned, I see that you've been a business expert for over 25 years, and I've been a therapist for over 24 years. So we're probably around the same age.
Probably, yeah.
And one of the things I've learned during the course of my career is that early childhood trauma leads to the gamut of abuse and poor decision making and just struggling.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say they're very much related, and I'm thrilled that you got onto a healing journey, and I would love to hear more about what that looked like other than going to therapy and reading that book by Louise Hay. What else was healing for you?
Well, I think one of the best, my first therapist, Tom Norris, was really one of the homework assignments, if you will. There were several that I had, right? When I was just on my beginning of my healing journey, which has been 30 years now. I always say I'm a typical overnight sensation, right? And if I'm alive and breathing, God's not done with me yet. There's more to heal, more to grow. But there were a couple of things he gave me as exercises that I found to be very profoundly helpful. One was to start having friendships with women, because I was in a very competitive, strange situation with my mother, and then my stepfather's girlfriends, and all this kind of stuff that wasn't very healthy. The world wasn't a very safe place for me, obviously, and I didn't have any female bonds. So it was an interesting thing that one of my first assignments was to actually start to build relationships with women. And it took me many, many years. I always think it's ironic that God has me doing the work of Limitless women today, women supporting women. I think it's really a fun healing opportunity. Not only do I get to lift other women up, but I become healed at every interaction, at every engagement, right? So there's all these layers of love and possibility that live in that space. That was one of the really profound shifts. The second one that was really profound was to stay out of relationship for about 2 years. That was like to start building relationship with myself, because I didn't know myself as anything other than how I was there to serve other people, be it my stepfather, be it my molester, be it my boss. I had zero self-esteem. And I just, I spent my childhood somewhat, my early adult years a lot, just trying to be good enough. The work of Limitless Women is really around healing the poverty consciousness, healing the scarcity consciousness that we're not enough, because we are more than enough. We're whole and complete the way we're born, but we don't know that. If we learn the message again and again that we shouldn't be here, there's something wrong with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Our team just recently designed and also bought concepts from another designer that has beautiful graphics on I am enough and you are enough.
Yay, I have goosebumps. I love that.
I'm really excited. We're launching that soon. Yes.
Yeah.
We have it on mugs and t-shirts and
Great.
all kinds of stuff, but we're going to put it in big tote bags too. And blankets.
Yeah.
I'm going to get myself a blanket that says I am enough, you know?
Good. Yes. What a perfect cuddle.
Yeah. And we can't be told that enough.
We can't. No pun intended. Yeah. You know, it's one thing to be on the other side of that, right? And this is what I speak with women often about, you know, kind of what I experience as the good news and the bad news, right? So the good news is that not enoughness doesn't drive me. I think one of the reasons that I've owned 9 companies and I've been really successful in some ways is that I spent a lot of years trying to prove that I was enough. Right. I was really trying to move to the next thing. And maybe if I do this, I'll be good enough. And maybe if I do that, I'll be good enough. And maybe I'm going to get this degree, I'll be good enough. Right. There was that drive. Yes. What's different for me now in my mature years, because you said, you know, this is my legacy work. Right? This is my opportunity to have experienced a tremendous amount of grace and healing and generosity. And that I get to pay that forward is my legacy work. The bad news is that often, you know, I wake up with days that I'm still feeling like I'm not looking good enough, or I'm overweight, or something's wrong. You know, that those messages I find are still in there. They just don't drive me in the same way that they used to. Right. So I can say thank you for sharing. And I know that those things were ingrained as the best I understand it. You might understand it differently as a professional, Karen, but I would say that a lot of those messages were survival messages that that served me at the time I needed them. And it's really great to be able to say thank you to them and to say, I'm okay now.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things I like to put it is I accept myself as I am when I'm experiencing some limitation in some way. Yeah. I love myself as I am, and I'm improving daily.
Yay. Beautiful.
You know, so it weighs out both of those. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So 9 companies, when you were talking about that and, the drive piece, this is what I often find with type A career women who are survivors is that go, go, go. One of the, even though we accomplish a lot, it costs a lot too. It costs us. Yeah. A lot of times we forgo self-care. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I want to know, what do you recommend when women find themselves in that push, push, push? They are successful. How did you get self-care? Because I'm guessing you're there now. You're getting some of it in. Yeah. I hope. Otherwise, I'm going to have to lecture you or do some therapy. Not lecture.
It's actually one of my keynote talks these days. So I have an acronym for self-care, and I have all kinds of good stuff to share with you. Because one of my dear friends, Katarina Rando, who has a community called Thriving Women in Business, she's based out of Northern California. She asked me to come and speak to her community about self-care. She said, "You're just so good at it. What does it mean to you?" And it took me a while to really analyze, like, what do I do to take care of myself so that I can take care of others from the overflow instead of that like climbing and clawing, trying to get there thing, right? What does that feel like? This luxury of time and space, because we really all have the same amount of time in a day. How we choose to spend that is the great differentiator, right? So I'd say that it has become a process. I experienced many challenges that at the cost of not taking care of myself around my health, around my marriage. My first marriage, I had some wake-up calls, let's just say that. And I write about those actually in my first book. I don't know if it's okay to tell you that I have a book. You started to ask me about that, and it's free. It's online. You can get it for free if you're interested. If you go to Laura Free Book, LauraFreebook, laurafreebook.com. My first book is there, Stop the Spinning, Move from Surviving to Thriving. And what I talk about is what are the key distinctions around time, around revenue, money, just money habits. I grew up with constantly struggling because how how the scarcity consciousness or the poverty mentality shows up, the not enoughness shows up for most of us is not enough time. Mm-hmm. So I always say, Karen, we have a community in Limitless Women of not type A's. We have like triple A's, like super duper high achievers, right? Like, and the self-induced insanity is real, right? So the piece around time, the piece around overflowing abundance and being in flow with your money and having that not be constantly a struggle. The conversation about what it takes to walk in faith, whatever your spiritual belief is, how you move through life with grace and ease. And self-care for me, I have a video about it online. If you go to my YouTube channel, you can find it. It's there in several forms and fashions. But the acronym for self-care for me really stands around, the S is for sleep. We need it. It's non-negotiable. There's a book called Why We Sleep, if you're curious about that, how every system in our body mentally and physically requires sleep. There's a reason why we spend a third of our life that way, right? Mm-hmm. Exercise. Now, I'm not here to tell you at 55 that I'm out to run a marathon. That's not happening, okay? However, what I can tell you is that movement is healing for our body, right? It helps us physically. It also helps us emotionally and mentally to move. There are certain systems that need movement, and it can be as simple as, taking the dogs out for a walk or getting outdoors or going for a swim if you have access to a pool, things like that. Just little gentle things that we give our sweet bodies that carry our souls permission to move and heal. The L in self-care for me is around letting go. There was a lot I had to learn, which is probably not a surprise to you, to let go of that was not mine. You know what I mean? Yeah. That I could really choose to get clear about what's mine to carry and what's not mine. The F is fuel. Quite simply, again, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not an exercise specialist, but I do know that when I feed my body live foods, I have more energy, which is very important for women who are high achievers. Our bodies, rather than fueling ourselves with caffeine and then crashing with alcohol, which could be easy to get into the habit of, right? If we can give ourselves, again, grace around the fuel, think about gas in the car. What are we giving this beautiful body just in the way of fuel? Care for me is community. I grew up feeling like I was alone. I grew up feeling like I was unwanted. I was told I was unwanted. And I think that lives in so many women I meet, the not enoughness, right? So allowing ourselves to be in community with other women who are like-minded, that really see the value in supporting one another it's been life-changing for me. The A is to learn to ask for what you want without a lot of conversation, just clear communication. And the R is receiving. Receiving is what we're made for. If you think about our anatomy, creation doesn't happen without the act of receiving. So receiving in a healthy way is a big practice for women, I believe, in order to be successful. The E is around ease. Instead of struggle, instead of forcing, instead of pushing, when we really learn to walk in the path of that which is provided for us, I find that everything happens in a whole completely, totally different way.
I love your acronym. I love
There's self-care for me. That's you just happen to ask, and I just happen to have that one. Yeah. So thanks for asking.
That was truly beautiful.
Thank you, dear.
So now I would love for you to talk about your business, especially the one where, you do so many things. I guess I didn't realize it was 9 until today. And it's interesting.
Like not 9 all at once. Let me just say that. Common misconception. No, at this point, I have 2 businesses that are running. One is my real estate investing business, and then the other is my leadership development company for women.
Okay.
And so Limitless Women is really the one that brought us together.
Yes, please talk about that one.
Yeah. And so I started being asked in 2009, 2010, I started receiving invitations to speak, and I was not a speaker, and it was kind of fascinating. So I went to prayer and meditation and said, what is it that you're asking me to do here? How can I serve with this? At the time, I owned a winery. I owned a real estate development company. I owned a tanning salon, and I owned a designer clothing boutique. So I was like, speak, what? But what they were asking me was, how is it that I had these businesses that were running and I still was like standing up like a normal person, and I still was volunteering at my kids' school. I was still coaching soccer. Like they were like, how is it possible that you're doing these things concurrently? How are you growing businesses? I think I was a boss back then, but I didn't know that because we didn't have that terminology, right? And so it was really put me on the journey of uncovering. And I think what I can tell you is that one business led to another business, led to another business. I always just kept following my passion. And what I've known, probably because God had a bigger plan, my first job was at McDonald's, is that the secret for business to be sustainable and scalable is to have systems combined with great team. And so I would build businesses, but I knew to build businesses where I was not the focus of the business, right? It wasn't me who was in a restaurant washing dishes and cooking and being the cashier. I did that in my early 20s. I learned quickly that wasn't going to work, right? So building great team, having systems was something that was just natural to me, right? And is somewhat natural to me now. What was happening is that there was what's grown into now a huge movement of women entrepreneurs who were like, how does she do it, right? Like, how is she building businesses? What's the secret sauce? And we don't see her there. How's it working? So we started to take what I had learned and put it into teachings and trainings. And now we offer education-based live events. Yay, we're getting back together in person. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That are business training fundraisers. And so we choose charities that uplift and support women and women's causes. And we partner with them. And we say, I bring together my community of entrepreneurs that want to learn about how to grow their businesses. And I say, okay, great, come play with me. In exchange for this, make the donation of your choice to this charity partner or the charity partner that you love, right? It's not for me to say what your cause is. There's a lot of great causes out there, but our cause is women supporting women. And at this point, we have given away a little over $600,000 since we started doing this work, which is cool. It's good stuff, cool. You know? Yeah. So that's what we do.
Yeah. One of the things, we have a community on Facebook with 400 women. And I have a beta launch of a group membership program for women that's around accountability and support and community.
Great.
As women are on their healing journey, one of the goals is to look behind you at the woman that's maybe struggling a little more than you are right now and take their hand to help them along. So we're going to be talking a lot about community service work as well. Good. I wanted to tell you that. It's called This Is Us, Healing from Trauma Together.
Okay, good. Maybe you can send me an invite if you and I can become friends on Facebook. I would love to know more.
Oh, that's awesome. Beautiful. But I wanted to tell you that one of the things I really encourage women to do because again, that dichotomy of growing up with suffering and then suffering during your early years when you're in situations like domestic violence. But a lot of women, no matter our age, end up working in toxic environments.
Yeah.
You know, male heavy leadership. Okay. So I love advocating for women to become entrepreneurs, to launch their own business. And I know that's like one of your superpowers. So if women are new to becoming an entrepreneur, would you recommend attending one of your leadership events, or where would you recommend they start?
Well, here's what I would say. So I hesitate to give this, but I'll go ahead and give it to you now. So you're going to, I'm not sure when this is going to go out, but we'll keep this page live on our website. So we give away a free gift every Friday that's education based, and you can access that by going to freegiftfriday.com. I have all these free things online. I have right now, I think a little over 100 videos online on business development, and our podcast, I haven't looked lately, but we're a little over 80 episodes. And so that, this is the piece. Our business is built on a few private partnerships. I work with some women privately as a business partner, and we grow their companies. It's, in the private sector, the majority of my work is supporting women for free. I get to give. I've sold 6 of my companies in a position now where my work is really all about giving back. So there's a lot of good stuff out there. And I would put let me just tell you a couple of caveats. One is this: be careful if you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur and you want to evolve and grow. Quantity is not the same as quality. That's right. So in the same way that you want to be discerning about who you spend your time with and where you put your focus in your healing journey, I want you to take that same discernment and those good, healthy boundaries to your business development and look for resources from people that have actually done what you want to do. because there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of marketing noise. And there's a lot of people that are what I would call one-hit wonders, right? Like they've kind of like had one business and been successful, and then they're teaching, I'm going to teach the world how to do it. One size doesn't fit all in a business model. There is a progression plan that every business needs to go through in every industry that starts with things like your mission, your vision, your culture, your core values. And most of us start a business because we want to solve a problem, right? There's a problem and a solution. We get out there and we do it. But there's some groundwork and some foundation pieces that are really important. And so I see women struggle often in business because they're doing either the wrong things, Karen, or they're doing the right things in the wrong order. You know, it's like
all that describes me.
Well, let's you and I have a chat afterwards, and I'll direct you to some good stuff, right? So it's like if you think about architecture, right? And I'm thinking this because I'm a real estate developer, but if you think about architecture, if you don't have a solid foundation, it doesn't matter how beautiful the roof tiles are going to be, right? They're not going to work, right? The house is going to be rocky. It's not going to work. So great businesses that are sustainable and scalable and really create impact in the world need strong foundations. And that's what I encourage every woman to think about, not getting rich quick. Think about what's the foundation? Why am I doing this work? What is on my heart? What am I being called to do with my service? And how do I really shore that up? And for most of us, myself included, we need a little help from the outside because we can't always see our own eyebrows, right? My girlfriend says that, Tracy, can't see your own eyebrows. You can try, but yeah, so get some help, but vet your partners, vet your teachers, make sure you check them out and that they actually do what they say they're going to do rather than they're flashy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was just working on my spreadsheet for my expenses for the past couple of years. And there's this long list of coaching, different coaches I had. And maybe 2 or 3 were really worth my big investments with them.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I've really learned a lot on this journey of not just go to what's shiny.
Well, and I think it's interesting because my clients often refer to me as a coach and I say, I'm not a coach. You're a grown-up. You know, when my kids were little, I coached soccer. Okay. No, but I am a great business partner and I won't work with someone unless I know a few things. I only work with spiritually connected women. Right? I only work with women who have a mission-focused business because this work matters. If you're building a business just because you need some cash flow, I'm not the right partner for you, right? This is not my personal passion. We're not a good match culturally. So find if this is on your heart, and I think it is for most of us who have gone through the journey and are called to heal. I believe God is calling us and offering us these opportunities to heal so that we can look behind. I love what you said. You know, look at who's the woman, who's the girl that's coming up right behind us, that we get the opportunity to share and give to them, right? And lift them up so that their journey can be faster and they can get there sooner and they can reach more people. I mean, who knows what the number is today? I certainly don't, but over 7 billion people and billions in pain. We each need to do our part. And I think there's a beautiful tapestry of us who have come through the journey and we're healed for a reason. So we get to be the healers. We may not call ourselves that, but that's what this work is all about. It's about paying it forward. Yeah.
Laura, you're beautiful inside and out. I don't know if anyone's told you that lately.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I had to say that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I respect that. Thank you.
You mentioned a couple of, I'm a big bibliotherapist as well. Like I love books. I feel like there's 2 things there's lots of things I think help in the healing journey, but 2 of my favorites are books and travel.
Yay!
So I love travel.
You're my soul sister. I get it. Yeah.
Oh my God. I love travel. And actually I'm working on a blog too, that's going to be about healing through trauma. I got the website. I have a lot of work to do. I got all these great ideas.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you first with the bibliotherapy stuff, you mentioned 2 great books other than your own, of course.
Yeah. You Know Your Life, Louise Hay was the first.
And Why We Sleep was the second.
Huge. Best book I've read in 10 years. Only because I personally have been going through a lot of health issues and they directly tied back to a sleep disorder that I had that I didn't even know.
Yep. I'm not surprised to hear that at all. Yeah.
Amazing. Such an eye-opener.
You may know this or may not. Majority of trauma survivors have medical complications.
Really? No, I didn't know that.
Because of the mind-body connection. Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me what lives in our sweet cells.
and ourselves. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of work with women on that, the mind-body connection.
Good.
Do you have any other favorite books that would bless somebody to read?
Oh gosh.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but
I want to tell you that when I travel, because I travel quite a bit, I tend to take, at least 3 or 4 books with me, even if I'm just going for a couple of days, because I read voraciously. It's my greatest guilty pleasure. So I would say that for the healing journey, well, let me give you some things that I think might be helpful from the entrepreneur perspective. Okay. I believe that every entrepreneur should read a couple of books. One is Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Mm-hmm. Because it just lays out the power of structure and why entrepreneurship. I just think, there's lots of things that he did afterwards that are great. But that original book, and then the second book that he wrote called The Cash Flow Quadrant, really explains how to think like a business owner instead of just being an entrepreneur that is working really hard to give yourself a job, right? So I think there's some great distinctions in there. I think one of the Bibles of entrepreneurship is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
I know. Yeah.
I think that's really one of the best books for anybody to read, of the power of what's possible, right? What's possible for us. And then I have about a bazillion business books. I'm constantly reading them and taking, I don't know if it works like this for you, Karen, but I'm pulling little nuggets of how does this apply and what kind of resource can I adapt to my own business and then take to my ladies? How can I be of service to my ladies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Think and Grow Rich book, I had just a regular copy that Mary Morrissey, have you heard of her?
Yes, I know her. Yes.
I had one that she had given me, but I upgraded after watching Bob Proctor for many years with this fancy book. I bought myself a leather Think and Go Rich book as well. So I'm just so happy with it.
So
it feels like I'm spoiling myself by just having it,
Yeah, I got to know him a little bit through our work with the Unstoppable Foundation. Mm-hmm. And I know Cynthia Kersey just sent out a love letter to him recently. I don't know if you're on their email list. But,
I'm a donor as well.
Yeah, just such a remarkable, gentle, kind, brilliant spirit.
Yeah.
A gift. Talk about legacy. What a beautiful.
I don't know anyone with a bigger one, right?
Yeah, just so heartfelt. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we should probably start wrapping up. I hate to. I know your time's valuable too. I knew this was going to be a treat, but it's actually a bigger treat than I even anticipated to have you. And so knowing that some of our listeners right now are not where they want to be, and are struggling, maybe feeling a touch of hopelessness. Do you have some words of inspiration or encouragement for them today?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like I can hear my angels laughing because I have a friend who just posted on Facebook about the space in between. Mm-hmm. And if you go to my Facebook page, you can find it, or if you go to our Limitless Women, it's limitlesswomen.group is where you can find our Limitless Women group. And there's a lot of free training and education opportunity there if somebody's an entrepreneur and it's interesting for them. And basically what she said in this post was it's a natural thing to be in the space in between. It's actually in nature, right? If you think about the shift of seasons, it's actually, there's a space sometimes for quiet and of healing and of transformation. And we've got to be in that, right? And we can see some visuals. She didn't refer to this, but it makes me think of like the visuals of a caterpillar moving to being a butterfly. If we disturb that cocoon and don't let it do its magic, the butterfly can't emerge, right? So my encouragement to women who are your community, who are in the healing journey, is to please be compassionate with yourself. And give yourself the time and the space. I honor you. I respect you. I acknowledge you for finding Karen. I feel like there's the divine dance that brought you to this work of Karen's. Know that you're in the right place and trust the process. Trust that you are loved. Trust that you are safe. And trust that you are getting everything that you need. And it just takes a little time. But your butterfly is there, right? The emerging of who you are wanting to grow and you can feel coming through is all in process. So just trust the process.
Yeah. Like allow yourself the gift of transformation.
Exactly. Just takes a little time.
Very beautifully said.
Thank you, my love. So please be in touch with us. Let me know how I can support you if there's any way I may. It's my pleasure. And I just am really, really honored to have been invited today.
Okay. And the best reach you again is a way to reach you through your website.
limitlesswomen.com. If you want to access some free trainings, there's several places. The YouTube channel, our podcast is also called Limitless Women. And if you want to join, there's some online training that's not available in those two places that hides, if you will, inside our Facebook group at limitlesswomen.group.
Limitlesswomen.group.
Easy to do. Okay. Thanks, Doll.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.